A lot of Lakers fans are exhaling a sigh of relief after the Lakers had to work overtime to beat a shorthanded Minnesota team by 6 in the NBA's play-in round. LeBron, at age 38, played 45 minutes and finished with 30 points, 10 rebounds, and 6 assists. Dennis Schroeder was clutch off the bench all night. Schroeder hit a three-pointer with 1.1 seconds left in regulation and sank 2 free throws with 8 seconds left in OT. The win clinches the 7th seed for the Lakers in the Western Conference and sends them into a first-round matchup with the Memphis Grizzlies. Game 1 in the best-of-7 series is Sunday in Memphis. Tip-off at noon on ABC. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Stand up and fight!
When news breaks, you can count on KBLA Talk 1580 for exclusive interviews.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nicolai Corte. Incredibly delighted to welcome Tennessee State Representative Justin Pearson. Brother, welcome to the show.
As Tennesseans, as Americans, as people of conscience, our responsibility is to get proximate to this movement. This is the moment. Folks always wonder, is this time for me to start using my voice for speaking up, for advocating for issues? This is it.
This is it.
The present moment where we are seeing the erosion of democracy, where we're seeing duly elected officials being expelled because we're raising the issue about the need to end gun violence and protect communities. And so for everyone who has ever had a thought that I need to do something, I need to be engaged, this is the moment to transform our cities, our counties, our states, and the United States of America.
Weekdays, weekends. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 for the conversations that matter most to you. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
My spirit saying keep the faith. My lyrics say give them hell. My fear saying I need a break. The foot I put on neck saying keep the pace. Smile say I'm good, but stomach say I ain't eating days. Mom saying dream bigger, son, you need a lake. Pop saying save your penny, son, you need a place. My friends saying keep it pimpin' blood, you need a race. My fam starting this tradition now of being safe. My ex picking now to tell me how she want a space. She be stressed if I ain't text her every couple days. She ain't special, ain't no pressure when you run the game. Another extra in my section when I'm up at Dre's. Talk to me nicely, walk through is pricey. Till my mom's in the hills and Lil bro them icy. Jesus hand on the wheel, it feels like a vice grip. If I ain't give you the chills, I feel there's alright this. My brother wears heart on his sleeve. His only motivation now is loving his seed. We at Cuzzo graduation, manifesting our dreams. As I write the homie Lock, who should've played in the league. Man, it's hard being the woke. The only one scoring get ball to me when I'm open. They guarding me and I'm stroking from hard and deep in the ocean. This dream take guts, heart, arteries, and devotion. Swear to God, yo, count up my bad days, count bad my past ways. Cause sometimes my pride just won't leave me alone. Cause home don't even feel like how we used to feel, dog. For real, Father Time just won't leave me alone. Come on. Shorty got your seed now, Daddy put the streets down. But meanwhile, my side chicks won't leave me alone. Let's go. Someone keep it real with me, follow up and build. Yeah. With the steel down, the vibes just won't leave me alone. Hey yo, I like what it's going.
KBLA Talk 1580. That's Miles Lowe. Miles Lowe Music. You can find him wherever you get your music. He's got a new EP out, No Place Like Home. He's part of our KBLA inner circle around here. Keeps this place going. And he's got a great EP. So support the local talent, if you will, especially a rising star like Mr. Lowe. I'm so honored to have joining me this morning a top civil rights lawyer, an author, public intellectual. She's known for fighting systemic inequality with coalition lawsuits that have helped millions in poor neighborhoods. The cases she's led have won over $10 billion in monetary damages and policy changes. And her cases include the largest civil rights settlement in U.S. history in Bus Riders Union versus MTA. That was a class action lawsuit. Attorney Connie Rice, welcome.
Hey, Dominique, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you doing? It's great to hear your voice.
It's great to hear you. I am personally blessed and politically stressed.
Yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds about right. So, I mean, I feel like I'm saying every other day, is that legal? How can that be legal? Is that constitutional? And I'm always thinking, I wish that Attorney Connie Rice was here to help me figure out what appear to be lawless lawmakers. And the lawsuit that Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg has brought against Jim Jordan, the Republican representative from Ohio, is emblematic of what I'm talking about. It seems like the DA is doing his job. He's bringing a case, whatever you think of that case, he's bringing a case against the former president. And the members of Congress like Jim Jordan are trying to interfere. How is that legal? Help me get my mind around this.
It may not be legal. It may not be legal. It may not be constitutional. But I think DA Bragg is right to bring the case because, for example, if Jim Jordan, the wrestling coach that didn't stop his wrestlers from being sexually abused when he was a wrestling coach, he's now, head of the House of Representatives. If Jim Jordan, for example, had the conversation with Trump's lawyers after the arraignment and the request for the hearing came after that, that may be some of the dots that DA Bragg can show to say, this is not a legitimate hearing. This was formed at the request of Trump, who is a criminal defendant, and the criminal defendant is asking Congress to help him fight his prosecution. Now, that's an illegitimate use of congressional power because most of the time Congress can investigate whatever it wants to because most everything in the country has some federal funding. So they're using that as an excuse. But if DA Bragg can go into court and say, no, actually, this is a corrupt intent. They're trying to mess with this trial for this criminal defendant who used to be the president of the United States. And so we'll see. But you're right to sense that, look, you're talking about the country right now has one functioning political party, and it doesn't have an elephant as its mascot. All right? We have another political entity that is creating a monstrous democracy demolition strategy. And it's basically saying democracy doesn't keep us in power, doesn't give us disproportionate control over the culture anymore. And so we're done with it. And you have the GOP, the Guns Over People Party, saying things like, well, you know what, maybe we should terminate the Constitution. You know what, on second thought, violence is political speech. Not only is money political speech, but now violent insurrection is okay if we lose an election we don't want to lose. Oh, and by the way, if we don't like what your representatives are doing in fighting for gun safety legislation in Nashville, we'll simply erase your representation. We'll simply recall you or banish you or, expel you. If we don't like a law, we'll just tell our people to ignore it. Oh, you want gun safety? We're going to do the opposite. We're actually going to remove the one gun safety law we have. So you're seeing a sort of aggressive retraction from constitutional framework, from the rule of law. They're attacking the rule of law. What do you think? That's what the insurrection was all about, and that's what refusal to submit to subpoenas. Remember all the subpoenas? They would simply say no.
Yes, yep.
You and I say no to a subpoena. You know where we're going to be? We're going to be in the Gray Bar Hotel. Okay. So yes, you're seeing lawlessness, but I'll tell you something, Dominique. Yesterday I was with some very close white friends, and we were talking about cancel culture, and they were bemoaning, I'm afraid to say what I know. And I said, it is ridiculous to fire professors for saying what, if you're in a university, that's where you're supposed to learn to debate. Stop all this snowflake stuff. So I actually agreed with that. But what I said, but listen, I said, it's really interesting to me to watch my white friends. And they said, what do you mean? I said, you all are experiencing cancellation for the first time. And it's amusing to me because African Americans are born canceled. We have to watch every word we say for fear of losing our jobs, for fear of using a little bit of status that the culture has allowed us. Barack Obama couldn't even talk about race. He was president of the United States. I said, African Americans, by definition, are born muted and canceled. And I said, it's you as white Americans have never had to experience that because we have a system where whiteness is more valued. And I said, it's not your fault. It's not my fault. I said, but it's just amusing to me that you're now experiencing what African Americans were born experiencing. And they looked at me and they said, you're right. Well, the lawlessness is the same thing, Dominique. I mean, what is our experience has been nothing but lawlessness.
Yeah. That's a good point. We're talking with attorney Connie Rice, and we got a lot to cover. I want to really talk about, what could be the implications of the Congress going after a local DA. Want to talk about Wisconsin, where a Supreme Court justice who would uphold a woman's right to choose has been elected, and there is now a move to impeach her. Lawless Lawmakers with attorney Connie Rice when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is an intervention. When we come forward, includes you. KBLA Talk 1580, turning pain into power.
KBLA Talk 1580 congratulates U.S. Olympic gold medalist and Hall of Famer Jeanette Bolden Pickens, owner of the 27th Street Bakery, during this Women's History Month. 27th Street Bakery sends a huge thank you to the community for all its support during the pandemic, serving the Los Angeles community with their signature sweet potato pies since 1956 and third-generation baker. The goal has never changed. Keep the business thriving for generations to come. Made with the freshest ingredients and each yam peeled by hand. 27th Street Bakery puts the home back in homemade with its signature vanilla added to all its amazing products. Pies, cakes, cobblers, tea cakes, and the newest item, creamy sweet potato cheesecake. Call 323-233-3469. That's 323-233-3469. Have your order shipped by visiting 27thstreetbakery.com or stop by 2700 South Central Avenue, Los Angeles, California, 90001, Tuesdays through Saturdays, 8 to 4.
Let's get back to business, Los Angeles County. The Economic Opportunity Grant Program is now open. This program is designed to provide financial support to qualified small businesses, micro-entrepreneurs, food industry businesses such as restaurants, and nonprofits in Los Angeles County. Approximately 4,600 grants of up to $2,500 each will be administered to qualified micro businesses that face barriers to accessing capital resources. To learn more about the Economic Opportunity Grant Program, visit www.grants.lacounty.gov. The application process is fast and easy. Don't miss the opportunity to get back to business. This program is administered by the County of Los Angeles through its Department of Economic Opportunity and funded in part through a grant from the California Office of the Small Business Advocate. The application portal is powered by Lindustry. Visit www.grants.lacounty.gov and get back to business.
At Charmin, we heard you shouldn't talk about going to the bathroom in public, so we decided to sing about it.
Roll Charmin ultra strong when you drop in the beat. It cleans with way less effort on your seat. Yeah, roll it, drop it. Yeah, roll it, drop it. Okay. Charmin flows extra strong from the road. Your butt hella clean while you're sitting on the bowl. Yeah, it's all you need for that bathroom groove. Get you in and out without nothing to prove.
Charmin Ultra Strong cleans better so you can use less. Enjoy the go with Charmin.
The double steak grilled cheese burrito is back at Taco Bell. And in case you didn't know, it's stacked. Yeah, packed inside it is a double serving of premium grilled marinated steak and a melty 3-cheese layer. Then on top of that, it has a layer of grilled bubbly cheese on the outside. Yeah, the outside. Why? Probably because it refuses to be caged in by the confines of its tortilla walls. Or maybe just to add more cheesy flavor.
Double steak grilled cheese burrito. Get one today, only at Taco Bell. And participate in U.S. Taco Bell locations for a limited time only while supplies last. Double steak claim is compared to steak quesadilla. Contact store for hours and participation which varies.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DiPrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
And I'm being joined this hour by a former member of President Barack Obama's Task Force on 21st Century Policing. She's actually recognized as a leading expert in changing police culture, attorney Connie Rice. So, first of all, my question about DA Alvin Bragg is, could this be a kind of like a blueprint? Could we see Congress trying to go after, Attorney Fani Willis in Georgia, could we see them trying to pick off prosecutors that are doing their jobs, not just against the former president, but against some of these traitorous lawmakers in Congress who I'm hoping one day will also face accountability?
Absolutely. I think the state Republicans in Georgia are putting through a bill right now to be able to remove prosecutors they don't like. And guess who they have in mind?
Yeah.
T.A. Willis is going after their idolatrous leader, and that's who they're targeting. But they're targeting cities. Notice how in Mississippi they're reducing the council in Jackson. They're taking away powers from black elected officials who preside in cities. What Republicans understand is that the votes that go for Democrats are in cities. That's why they're always attacking the voting mechanisms that African Americans and urban voters use. Stop the vote by mail, get rid of the drop boxes, make sure students can't vote, can't use IDs. You can use your NRA ID, but you can't use your university ID. So you've got all the voter suppression. Then they go from voter suppression and voter blocking. That's after they gerrymander the districts so that Democrats can't elect as many officials. Then they start the voter access blocking, and then they refuse to count some votes, so they attack the count. Then if the count doesn't work for them, they'll attack the election or deny the election. And if the election doesn't happen, they'll just get rid of elections.
Right, and just pick their leaders. That's crazy.
Yeah, so you see the mounting attacks, just as you saw Trump's mounting attacks. He tried to corrupt everything from the Department of Defense, his Attorney General. When that didn't work, he comes up with this scheme of forcing Mike Pence to not certify the electoral. They keep escalating. They are just on a war footing to end any kind of shared power with people they don't think should be here. And it's actually bled into, it's gotten worse than just, this is beyond political. I always say you got to know the frame you're in. This is about a war for control and power. And when Barack Obama got elected, that was a wake-up call that the country was on its way to finally on a road to multiracial democracy. That is not something that 40% of white Americans agreed to. And they're saying, we won't go. And their party right now is the GOP. And so, democracy can't work without the rule of law, which they're attacking, without free and fair elections, which they're attacking, without the norms of democracy, which say, you and I both have a right to be here, let's fight over policy, but let's not try to destroy all of the Madisonian framework that has gotten us to this point. And it's kind of strange for you and me and a whole bunch of other African Americans to argue for a system that denied our humanity in writing. But what we understand, I think, is, African Americans, we're the only group that has known American totalitarianism, because that's what slavery is. We know what it means to live under a totalitarian autocracy. And there's some parts of the country where they still have for colored signs. So we haven't, the vestiges of slavery are still smoldering. And in some places, they're on fire. So as I was saying to somebody, I was saying to a friend of mine, another white friend of mine, I was saying, we can still lose the Civil War. And she said, what do you mean? I said, the people who defended slavery are now defending the monuments to slavery. And they are now signing back up to the cancellation of the democracy, which is what happened after the Civil War. Remember, we had the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. We had the Reconstruction period, which was supposed to help rehabilitate former slaves, and the South rose up. North Carolina saw a majority black state council, and they said, "Oh no!" And then came the wipeout. They just wiped out. Talk about lawlessness. The total wipeout of communities: Rosewood, Tulsa, Greenwood. Just wipe out prosperous African Americans. As soon as we got anything, they burned it to the ground. And then the reign of terror happened. That rose up with the black codes. and returning people to slavery light, which is, the penal system, which we still have. So we've been through this kind of vicious, savage lawlessness that really is the beat down and oppression of people they never intended to include in the democracy. So we've been here before. It's not as vicious. You don't have 4,970 African Americans lynched in trees. And so the violence has changed a little bit. But we're living through it again, Dominique. We've been here before. We came out of it. But I'm wondering whether white America, and King posed the question, when the time comes, will white America choose chaos or community? And that's the frame we're in right now.
Right now, it seems like they're definitely leaning towards chaos. I'm thinking, when you talk about the Reconstruction, Attorney Rice, I'm thinking about Tennessee, right? What we saw with the Justins, the two young men that were expelled from the state legislature. One has already been reinstated by his county officials. The other one is likely going to be reinstated today. But again, they've been stripped of committees. We don't know what else is going to happen next. That really reminded me of Reconstruction. It was all these elderly white guys doing a legislative lynching of two young black men who really represent the future in that multiracial democracy that you talked about.
I think that's absolutely right. It was amazing to watch. I said, "Oh boy, here we go.
Mm-hmm.
Here are the new leaders. I can retire." So I said, "Thank you, finally." But that's not fair. A lot of our local young leaders and even middle-aged leaders, they don't get the spotlight shine. And a lot of life is timing, and you get to know in the moment when to rise up. There were a lot of folks that didn't capture the camera, but King and all the, Diane Nash and John Lewis and Vivian, it's all of the giants whose shoulders we stand on and who marched and fought and died for all of the rights that we've enjoyed for the last 50 years. If the camera didn't catch them, so the camera caught Justin Pearson and Justin Jones at the right time. But I want to get back to something that you said a little earlier. It's not all of white America. It's about 40% of white America. And even though the vote is 50-50, I would say the coalition that elected Biden, it's not quite the Grand Alliance that King talked about, but the Grand Alliance King talked about was what you saw with Justin Pearson, Justin Jones, and Gloria Johnson all raising their hands up together. That's the Grand Alliance that King said would have to be cultivated and activated and ignited in order for us to do this last leg of, or maybe the last two legs of the relay to justice. We're achieving America. America is an ideal. We were never included, African Americans were never meant to be included in that dream. Neither were women. And I think what you're seeing is the emergence of suburban women who have seen a fundamental right taken away from them. You've seen African Americans, we've been fighting for 400 years for our freedom, but for the freedom of the entire country. It's through African American trouble and travails and battles that we've given life to the Constitution. Without African Americans, the Constitution doesn't mean very much. The constitutional protections don't mean very much. But right now, there is a coalition, the coalition that elected Biden, and it is multiracial. It is all the other groups of color. It is LGBTQ communities who are also targeted. And this is the intersectionality of oppression. What straight, white, I call it Christofascism.
Mm-hmm.
This is they're using Christianity, but it's not Christianity. It's Christomalignity, and it's full of malevolence toward anybody. It's with malice and cruelty toward all who don't look like you. It's the opposite of Christianity, and this is the fear-driven demagoguery saying to white people, you are losing your status, you are losing your supremacy, and whipping them into a frenzy with all kinds of lies. including, Hillary Clinton is a cannibal who grooms pedophiles in the basement of the White House. And I'm not making that up. Just listen to the crazy talk radio.
Yeah, that's straight QAnon. Yeah, I've heard them. I actually have a couple friends that went down that rabbit hole. Really sad.
Yeah, exactly. So I think you're absolutely right that this is a time when it's a crazy time because it's a big transition. It's a scary transition, but the coalition, at least in the cities, you saw in just in this election in Wisconsin, you saw in a state where Trump won by double digits, a state that gave a double-digit win to a liberal Democratic Supreme Court justice. That was with suburban white women who have seen their daughters' futures slashed by men who actually say raped 10-year-olds should be forced to give birth, that women who seek control over their bodies and their reproductive freedom, if they exercise that freedom to end a pregnancy, they should face the death penalty. That happened in North Carolina. So you're talking such extreme craziness from this nutty movement that wants to destroy democracy and freedom to preserve their power, from basically regressive, fascist-leaning, straight white men who are refusing to share the democracy. And the thing of it is, if they've alienated white women, that's the coalition that prevented the red wave in the midterms. Remember?
Yep.
You had young voters of color, young voters of all races. You had white women who saw Dobbs and their reproductive freedom, and with the threat of actually going after contraception. Now, here's how we really turn this around, Dominique. Have that judge who outlawed the abortion pill to say, okay, if you can reverse the FDA findings of safety, go after Viagra. You will see a whole movement. We'll turn this around instantaneously.
Which, I mean, if that judge is allowed to, have that authority to say, no, you can't have these mifepristone anymore, you can't have abortion pills anymore, why couldn't they just do the same for Viagra or any other medication that they found, birth control pills, whatever they found objectionable? They could just wave their non-scientific magic wand and say, well, I'm a judge, not a doctor, but I don't like it. Yeah, whatever. I have freedom for myself and the freedom to deny freedom to anybody I don't like. That is the DeSantis, neo-fascist, neo-GOP, neo-Confederacy. We'll put it whatever label you want on it. It's going back. And they want to go all the way back. And so, you have a judge who went to a Christian academy. And if you look at the opinion, I can't believe even this Supreme Court would ratify it. But you never know, because you've got a supermajority on the Supreme Court now that's just run away like wild horses. So we'll see. But if you read the opinion, it violates every doctrine I ever learned in law school. If they uphold this, I'm giving my law degree back, because the doctrines of standing, the doctrines of exhaustion of remedies, everything you learned in first-year law school has been violated by this opinion. And then he talks about the fetus as a human. Well, next, I guess sperm are going to be human. And if that's the case, we can do all kinds of laws. If you can control women's reproductive machinery, why can't the state be in their urologist examination? If they can come into our gynecological appointments, you got the GOP there with your gynecologist telling you what you can do with your reproductive system. Then why not everybody else's? Yes, that's a scary thought. Talking with attorney Connie Rice. Look, Trump has asked a court to delay his rape trial, and I would love to hear your thoughts on that, attorney Connie Rice. Plus, what will really happen in Wisconsin? Lawless Lawmakers is our topic. Attorney Connie Rice, our expert on KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Police body cam footage of the Louisville, Kentucky bank shooting shows officers moving in to engage the suspect while encountering heavy fire. The footage on Tuesday captures the moment police opened fire, killing the 25-year-old gunman. Cops say after he killed 5 people and injured over a half dozen, he laid in wait in the lobby for police to arrive and started shooting at them. The annual National Action Network Convention kicks off today in New York City. African-American Mayor Eric Adams, Al Sharpton, and Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg are among the many that will speak over the next several days. Attorney Ben Crump will lead a panel on police reform. Vice President Kamala Harris will be the keynote speaker on Friday. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Bank of America has powerful digital solutions for local and global businesses, so you can make every move matter. Visit bankofamerica.com/banking for business to learn more. Bank of America, N.A. Copyright 2023.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
There's a breeze still coming out of Crypto.com Arena this morning in downtown LA. A lot of Lakers fans are exhaling a sigh of relief after the Lakers had to work overtime to beat a shorthanded Minnesota team by 6 in the NBA's play-in round. LeBron, at age 38, played 45 minutes and finished with 30 points, 10 rebounds, and 6 assists. Dennis Schroeder was clutch off the bench all night. Schroeder hit a three-pointer with 1.1 seconds left in regulation and sank 2 free throws with 8 seconds left in OT. The win clinches the 7th seed for the Lakers in the Western Conference and sends them into a first-round matchup with the Memphis Grizzlies. Game 1 in the best-of-7 series is Sunday in Memphis. Tip-off at noon on ABC. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm young, gifted, and black. KBLA Talk 1580, we do more than just talk.
Hey there, I'm Jared Hill, president of the National Association of Black Journalists of Los Angeles, and I just want to say thank you for the benevolent $10,000 donation and scholarships for the next generation of black journalists.
And I'm Haywood Galbraith, photojournalist and founder of the Minority Photojournalism Institute. Thanks, KBLA, for your generous $10,000 scholarship gift to help us train the next generation of black photojournalists.
Congratulations to all the students who will benefit from the scholarship dollars raised at our Black History Month luncheon honoring black legends in LA media. When we come forward at KBLA Talk 1580, we're bringing everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us.
Life is uncertain. It's okay to feel stressed, anxious, worried, or frustrated. It's normal. With CalHope's free and secure mental health resources, it's easy to get the help you and your loved ones need when you need it the most. Call our warm line at 833-317-4673 or live chat at calhope.org today.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, Maisha Cairo here, KBLA, live at Chase Bank on Crenshaw and Vernon for the In This Together tour with female business owners, a day of empowerment, community panels, and best of all, tips on building business from marketing to capital. I'm here with Lisa Stevens, Senior Business Consultant with Chase for Business. Lisa, what's one tip you'd give to business owners here in the Crenshaw area?
I love that you asked that question. I'm originally from Brooklyn, and I grew up in an area that's very similar to Crenshaw. So this is near and dear to my heart. And if I could only leave a business owner with just one, I would tell the business owner to identify their why. And I think that is so important because your why is going to be that strength on those days where you feel like you're struggling. Your why is going to be that stepping stone. Those days that you want to give up, your why is going to be the reason that you get back up.
And how would you advise business owners looking to acquire capital? What do they need to know before stepping inside the branch to ask for funding?
So 3 things. I do want to share this when it comes to the power of capital and just finding those resources. Understand that capital is a 3-part of a business, right? It's not always about the monetary piece, but if you first put that intellectual, right? What do I need to know? That social, who I need to know? That will help you to then package for that monetary piece. So no matter who you're banking with, you should know your banker. Never walk into a bank and you're transactional only.
It's just like Lisa to drop gems. I'm Maisha Cairo in the community for KBLA with JP Morgan Chase.
Find a righteous rage And don't be afraid to say what you see. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
Talking with the author of the book, Power Concedes Nothing. She is one of the premier civil rights attorneys in our country, Attorney Connie Rice. So great to get your perspective on so many of these things. And looking at Wisconsin, where, you know, you think, oh, that's their state, who cares? But no, they've elected Janet Protasiewicz. She's a Supreme Court justice, a state Supreme Court, which now gives them a liberal court majority. This could be really, really important in the 2024 election, right? If it comes to overturning votes or verifying electors, or all kinds of things could come into play here. Republicans are talking about impeaching her, something that they have only done once in state history back in 1853. Do you think this could happen? It's reminding me of the Justins. We don't like it. I call them the crybaby Republicans. We don't like the result of an election. We're going to cry, say there was something wrong with it, even though she won by like 10 points, and then we're going to try to overturn it.
Yeah, it's more like the juvenile delinquent republic. They're just blowing everything up. If it doesn't work for them, they're going to blow it up. Well, Wisconsin is critical, as you said, for some central reasons. That that blue wall that kept the red wave from overtaking both the Senate and the House, that wall is in the Midwest. You've got Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, you've got Ohio, and Wisconsin is one of the key swing states. And what we see there is a coalition of suburban white women who don't like their reproductive rights retracted and eliminated, and they know that the Republicans are coming after birth control next because that's what Justice Thomas said they were going to do. So there, you've got the coalition of white women, you've got the coalition of young Gen Z and X, Gen X, young people, younger people, and you've got African Americans, you've got the coalition of people of color, you've got LGBTQ. So you've got a coalition that is saying, you know what, we're not doing this. We're not going all the way back to an abortion law that was left standing after Dobbs ended Roe v. Wade. It takes women's rights back to an 1870-something law on the books. And when they basically rose up and they elected this justice. Well, that was a sign that the abortion elimination, the fact that you won't allow women to determine what happens to their bodies. If you can't control your body, Dominique, what can you control? If you've got the state controlling your body, what is that? It's not democracy. So this is so extreme that I'm thinking, as I don't rely on folks liking African Americans or liking. I don't want you to like me. I want you to use your self-interest to ally with me, so that we together can maintain both our freedoms. That's what the coalition is. That's what the Grand Alliance that Martin Luther King Jr. talked about. We don't have to like one another, and nobody's asking you, to become gay or to become black. We're not asking anybody to make those choices. This isn't about your lifestyle. This is about your freedom. And you got to know what frame you're in. So together, we're going to be allies. We created an alliance to elect Biden and keep Trump from getting a second term. White voters and others in Wisconsin kept the Supreme Court from going back to the 1800s by electing this justice. So it's going to be state by state, battle by battle. But what it means is we can't rest. We can't go home, think the election's over. The election never ends. The battle doesn't end because right now we're in a war for freedom.
Yeah, absolutely. And so many things seem to be happening at once to sort of paint the picture of how dire it's gotten. The fact that a former president is asking a judge to delay a sexual assault trial because he's been indicted for paying off an adult film star. It's just a lot. They want the judge to delay the start of the defamation and sexual assault trial for 1 month for what they're calling a cooling off period following Trump's indictment on falsifying business records around the Stormy Daniels case. They're saying it'll taint the jury because of the criminal charges. I'm thinking his presidency would taint the jury. But is this likely to stand?
I don't know, Dominique, but I asked the same question you just asked, which is, how does someone who celebrates the fact that he brags about sexually assaulting women, how do you damage that reputation? Well, it seems like his reputation is as a criminal. He likes that reputation. So, I don't know, the suit seems to enhance his reputation.
Well, I mean, he's the one that's been running around bragging that it's helped his reelection chances, and that's, fueling his fundraising. So that is an interesting
$5 million since his indictment. I said, well, maybe I need to get indicted. He
You're
makes
black.
money.
It won't work for you, Attorney Rice.
I know. It's not going to work. I know. All of it where he says there's no such thing as bad publicity. So I don't know what he's complaining about. So it's not his defamation. It's the fact that he called the woman that he allegedly raped decades ago, calling her a liar. And so this is a civil defamation trial connected to a rape allegation. And while it's not a criminal rape trial, it is about the fact that this woman says that Trump raped her, and that his denial of it has. So we will see that. But that trial cooling off period, it's been over 20 years. So I don't know how much more cooling off he needs. And taint the jury pool. I don't know anybody. I mean, unless you were born on an iceberg somewhere floating around, I don't know anybody who doesn't have an opinion about this man. So you can't go anywhere. And so I hope it doesn't stand. But it's just an example of, this is a man who has never complied with laws in his entire life. He had to be sent to a military. He was kicked out of several high-powered private schools in high school, and was sent to the military academy, which is juvenile delinquency school for rich kids. And he allegedly threw a kid out of a second-story window. So he's been a sociopath his entire life, and he's never had to pay the consequences. He will pay some money after using the courts. He weaponizes the courts all the time. But he's just done con job after con job. And, they talk about woke. Well, yeah, African Americans woke up and saw the con.
Right.
We woke up and saw the tiki torches in Charlottesville. Yeah, we're woke. We woke up. And then the rest of the country better wake up, too, and smell the cordite and the bear spray. Because this really is a matter of, I would love to be in a frame where we're arguing about the size of government and how many taxes. That's a policy frame. We're in a power frame right now. And you don't talk data. It drives me nuts when the Democrats start reeling out statistics. I said, stop with the statistics. Stop with the state of Black America stuff. We all know it's bad. That's policy. You can't talk policy when someone is doing a power war and a culture war. Those are the frames we're in right now. And you can't fight. Power and culture eat policy for breakfast. Okay.
Yeah. Talking with Attorney Connie Rice, again, I want to ask about all of these cases stacking up over the 45th president. I also want to I have a question about these, the Texas ruling where the judges, invalidating the FDA's approval of mifepristone. Some states, Massachusetts, California, among them, stockpiling the medication. And when we come forward, I want to get your thoughts about how that's going to work. If it's not approved by the FDA, that's federal. So how can Governor Newsom or other state officials just defy that and have their own state supply? It sounds, I don't know, could it be the new cannabis? I don't know. We'll get Attorney Rice's opinion when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
Black Enterprise dishes on 5 steps to communicate like a boss. Maisha Cairo here with your K-Black Minute News, brought to you by Lendistry. Communicating effectively is necessary for a productive work environment. Here are 5 steps to communicate like a boss from Black Enterprise. Step number 1, active listening. This requires leaders to pay close attention to what their team members say. Ask relevant questions and provide feedback while demonstrating understanding. Number 2, clarify expectations, providing clear and concise instructions. Number 3, give and accept feedback.
This should be respectful and supportive, not accusatory or confrontational. 4, communicate goals clearly. When everyone's on the same page about what they're working towards, it helps create a sense of unity and shared purpose. 5, practice and be flexible. I'm Aisha Cairo, and that's your K-Black Minute News.
For adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy, now there's Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection. With Skyrizi, 3 out of 4 people achieve 90% clear skin at 4 months, and Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Nothing in me go hand in hand. Nothing on my skin, that's my new plan. Nothing is everyday.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
With Skyrizi, you could achieve 90% clearer skin. Ask your doctor about the #1 dermatologist prescribed biologic in psoriasis and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
Gotta stay fresh, my house shot with a red spot,
Have you visited us online for the grand opening of KBLA.store? For the best in new merch, gift ideas, books, media, and more, log on to KBLA.store. Be sure to check out our KBLA team favorites at KBLA.store today. That's KBLA.store for all the official merch on your favorite talk radio station, KBLA Talk 1580.
We're not for everybody, but we're for everybody. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
My guest this hour, attorney Connie Rice, has earned over 50 major awards and has been called by Los Angeles Magazine the voice for LA's oppressed. I would argue it probably goes a little beyond LA to our entire 50 states. Looking at, just before we get back into the 45th president, looking at this ruling, this Texas judge saying that he is going to overturn the FDA, right, and will no longer make the abortion a medication that most pregnancy terminations are utilizing. Will no longer make that available. There's a judge in Washington that's contradicting that. The Biden administration has asked, that the whole thing be paused while it works its way through the courts, could end up at the Supreme Court. Meanwhile, all of these different states are stockpiling, whether it's through a hospital, through their prison system, they're stockpiling this abortion medication. And I'm just wondering, how does that work if the judge's opinion stands or it goes to the Supreme Court and we end up having a de facto national abortion ban through this medication? Would the states still be able to dispense it?
I think so, because the Dobbs decision said leave it to the states. The GOP has said, no, we want a national ban, and we're going to push for it however we have to. So you've got, right now, the federal law is that each state can determine abortion rights, which is any time you talk about states' rights, African Americans should sit up and take notice, because we know what states' rights means. So this is a case of, and as you said, I think correctly right before the break, it could be more like the cannabis law, that while recreational marijuana is legal in California, for example, it is not legal federally. It's still a crime. And so if you transport it out, and if you have federal authorities like a U.S. attorney who want to enforce marijuana laws, they still can under federal jurisdiction, but the state attorney general is not going to do it. So what you're going to have is states where women still have control over their reproductive freedom and the right to choose. In those states, the states are stockpiling to make sure that women can have access to at least one of the dual regimen drugs that end the pregnancy. And I think that that's what they're thinking. And the attorneys general for those states are not going to enforce a federal ban on that medicine. Look, this is the war on science. You got to remember. I mean, if you take the FDA, if you take away science-based, evidence-based double-blind tested. We're going to have all kinds of stuff pushed by crazy people like this judge who think that he can substitute his ignorant judgment for scientific testing of a drug that has been found so safe it's safer than Tylenol. That's why it can be prescribed to women. This isn't about women's safety. It's not about babies. It's about power. Because if you take away, over half of abortions are now done in the privacy of your bathroom with these two drugs. If you take away the right for a woman to end her pregnancy privately at home, that means she has to run the gauntlet. She has to be shamed publicly by going to clinics. She gets harangued. She gets harassed. She can become a visible target for the anti-choice radical right. And it's also very interesting to me. Look, Dominique, wealthy women are always going to have access to reproductive freedom. They'll just pay for it.
Right.
This affects poor women, poor white women, and poor women of color. That they're the ones who take 90% of this hit. They can't travel. And if you look at, there was a 59% increase in the 13.5 additional black female voters. And that was the coalition that put Biden in office, along with the other parts of the Grand Alliance for that election. But what better way to take, a single mother can't stand in line for 4 hours after the GOP has taken away all the election sites, the voting sites. So in some indirect way, you have the confluence of the attacks on women's freedom and independence, the attacks on democracy and voting, and the anti-black racism, the suppression of the black vote, in particular with gerrymandering and all of the other tactics that are being used. And it all comes together in this sort of these people are our enemy, and we're going to stop them on every front we can.
Talking with attorney.
That's how they see us.
Scary. And apparently true. Attorney Connie Rice is my guest. When we come forward, we'll get some final thoughts from her. I want to at least get a quick overview of what the 45th president could be facing, as he's got a number of cases coming down the pipeline and how one impacts the other. That's straight ahead on KBLA Talk 1580.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580.
The FAA will be hiring air traffic controllers soon. Applications open June 24th through June 27th. If you know someone between the ages of 18 and 30 who might be interested, please tell them to go to www.faa.gov/BE-ATC to apply today. The salary range is $103,000 to $164,000. There's also paid training and school. Again, that's www.faa.gov-BE-ATC. Again, that's www.faa.gov/BE-ATC to apply to be an air traffic controller. This community call to action is brought to you by the Organization of Black Aerospace Professionals and KBLA Talk 1580.
Some people won't give you the real talk on drugs, but it's time we know the facts. Fentanyl is killing people. It's a powerful opioid, often made illegally and commonly mixed with illicit drugs. It can even be pressed into counterfeit pills that resemble prescription medications. Just 2 milligrams, about the size of make you think twice. Get the facts. Go to realdealonfentanyl.com. This message is brought to you by the Ad Council.
Mom's early Alzheimer's diagnosis was hard to take. And when I left the oven on, we decided together that it was time to see a doctor and make a plan. Early detection gave us more time to seek out information and support as a family.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together. For more information, visit alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
At Charmin, we heard you shouldn't talk about going to the bathroom in public, so we decided to sing about it.
Roll Charmin ultra strong when you drop in the beat. It cleans with way less effort on your seat. Yeah, roll it, drop it. Yeah, roll it, drop it. Charmin flows extra strong from the road. Your butt hella clean while you're sitting on the bowl. Yeah, it's all you need for that bathroom groove. Get you in and out without nothing to prove.
Charmin Ultra Strong cleans better so you can use less. Enjoy the go with Charmin.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DiPrima on First Things First.
Talking with attorney Connie Rice just a few minutes before we pass the microphone off to Tavis Smiley, like we do every day right around this time. Attorney Rice, we know that the former President Donald Trump is facing 34 counts of falsifying business records. That's brought by the district attorney in New York. We know that there is another criminal case looming in Georgia, Fannie Willis, around the whole issue of election tampering. Department of Justice maybe brings a charge around the documents, right? There's still an investigation around the former president's role in January 6th. What's the cumulative effect here? Not to mention a civil case in New York from attorney Letitia James. Does it get harder and harder and harder to defend him as these cases pile up? Is that why we're hearing the attorneys asking for the delay in the sexual assault trial? How do you see this?
Well, it depends on whose eyes you look through. Through the eyes of his hardcore base who will back him no matter what, this strengthens him. And it almost guarantees all of these potential indictments, in addition to the Bragg indictment. All of these indictments actually strengthen him and make it probably more likely that the primary voters for the GOP nomination make him stronger. It probably makes it more likely. Right now, just looking at it now, what you are starting to see, though, in the polling of Republicans is that some of them are now finally saying, no, it's too much. There's too many anvils around his neck. He's going to sink us. And so we need to go with DeSantis or somebody who isn't going to be spending his time in trials all the time. So you're starting to see a little bit of a fracture there inside the GOP. For the swing voters, I don't think this is playing as well, but we're going to have to wait for more polling. But more importantly, we talk about the Business Records Act. This was the corruption of business for the purpose of corrupting and defrauding the voters of New York. It's not just, he didn't enter his business records right. It's that it was the falsification of business records for the purpose of defrauding and concealing the crime of corrupting an election and preventing the election of Hillary Clinton. And if you had to rank these, I would say the most serious of these investigations are Mark Smith's, the special prosecutor's investigation for the January 6th violent insurrection. It doesn't get more serious than that. Sedition. That's number one. Number two is the top secret documents, although we can't seem to keep any secrets given the latest weeks. But when you've got an obstruction of the federal government's efforts to get top compartmentalized secret documents back, that's serious business. So that, I think, those two are the most serious. But I don't want to dismiss the New York business records for the corruption of an election case either, because it's still ongoing. That was his first attempt, even before he got into the presidency. That was his first attempt at corrupting an election. He's still trying to corrupt elections. He was still trying to corrupt the election that elected Biden. So this is an ongoing, rolling insurrection against our democracy, and it's an ongoing corruption of our democratic processes, led by a former president of the United States.
Attorney Connie Rice, thank you so very much. It's always enlightening to talk with you.
It's great to be with you, Dominique. Take care.
Take care indeed. Tavis Smiley's up next. History is now, and we are making it together. I'm Dominique DiPrima. Until tomorrow, one love.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
Old gunman, cops say after he killed 5 people.